Boom. All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Shoot the Hoot Raw. I'm Chuck Taylor, co-founder and chief go-getter here at CyberHoot, and today we're talking about something every MSP in business hopes never happens, but absolutely needs to be ready for it, because at some point, somewhere, someone is going to say, "Hey, I think we've been hacked," and in that moment, nobody's asking about your firewall, nobody's asking about your training modules or power-ups. They're asking, "What do we do right now?" And here's the reality. Most companies spend all their time trying to prevent a breach and almost no time preparing for what happens after one actually succeeds. So when it does happen, panic kicks in, decisions get rushed, and mistakes get expensive. Today, we're going to fix that. We're going to walk through what actually matters in the first 60 minutes after a breach. So when that moment comes, you're not guessing. Guess what you are? You're ready. So let's take a look at today's flight plan, and let's get things rolling. All right, so today's flight plan. First up, our 5-minute rant. You've been hacked, now what? Because everybody has a plan until that first alert hits. Or like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And a breach can feel like that. We're walking through what to do in the first 60 minutes. When decisions matter, panic is tempting, and bad news get very expensive. Next, our CyberHoot Nerd Update. More insight, better logging, and smoother operations. We've got improvements under the hood to give you more visibility, better tracking, and fewer what just happened moments. The kind of stuff that you'll appreciate right before something goes wrong. Then we open it up for open mic Q&A, real questions after the breach, right? Because once something happens, the questions come fast. Do we shut everything down? Who do we call? Are we covered for this? We'll tackle the ones that matter the most. And finally, our hoot-worthy horror story, Maersk, the day the world's shipping stopped. One attack, thousands of systems wiped, and a global company rebuilding from a single surviving server. Yeah, this one gets a little wild. All right, so let's keep moving here. So buckle up. Oh, sorry, let me put my, fix this real fast. Boom, I had to go on focus. I was getting distracted. Sorry about that. So let's buckle up. Today's episode is all about what happens after prevention fails and response takes over. All right, let's set the scene. It's 9:12 a.m. Somebody clicks a link or logs in somewhere they shouldn't have, or you get the message, hey, something's not right. And just like that, boom, the clock has started, because breaches don't unfold over weeks. They unfold over minutes. Attackers move fast. In many cases, data exfiltration can begin within a minute of access. And here's the kicker. Most of the damage doesn't come from the attack. Crazy, right? It comes from what happens right after. The panic clicks, the delayed decisions, the, well, let's wait and see moments. This is not a wait and see moment, folks. This is a take control kind of moment. You gotta get at it. So first actions. This is where most breaches are either contained or they are multiplied. So listen, don't panic, but you do have to act. First, you gotta disconnect those affected systems, pull the network cable, kill the Wi-Fi, isolate the machines that are in question. You're not fixing it yet. No. All you're doing is stopping the spread, right? Second, lock down the access, disable compromised accounts, reset passwords, revoke active sessions and tokens. Do this. If the attacker has a foothold, time equals damage. So lock it down. Third, preserve evidence. Do not wipe the device. Do not clean it up. Logs, emails, and timestamps, that's your trail for investigations, insurance, and legal. And fourth, alert your team immediately. This is not a solo mission. You have to loop in IT, your leadership, and your MSP right away. So some quick things to remember: contain, lock down, preserve, escalate. 4 things: contain, lock down, preserve, escalate. One more time: contain, lock down, preserve, escalate. Got to do it. You do those 4 things fast and right, and you're already ahead of most responses. So let's talk about how companies accidentally make a bad situation worse, because most breaches don't spiral out of control because of the attacker themselves. They spiral because of the response. So mistake number 1 is waiting too long. Let's just look at it after this meeting. Oh, no, you won't, because by then, attackers already had the meeting with your data. So mistake number 2, not escalating, trying to quietly fix it yourself. That's like Googling how to put out a fire while your kitchen is still on fire. Call for help, and call for help early. Mistake number 3, deleting evidence. Let's just wipe it and move on already. Great. Now the attacker is gone, and so is your ability to explain what happened. Insurance loves that, by the way. They don't. They don't. And mistake number 4, poor communication. Telling nobody, telling the wrong people, or sending a Slack message that says, hey, weird stuff happening, LOL. Folks, this is not an LOL moment. Here's the takeaway. Speed beats perfection, but bad decisions beat both. Do the right things early, and you avoid a much bigger mess later. Containment. This is where things can be they can either stay controlled or they can go completely sideways. Because the natural reaction during a breach is shut it all down, like fire, shut it all down, right? Servers, network, Wi-Fi, coffee machine, everything, shut it down. But here's the problem. If you go full panic mode like that, you might actually make things worse. You tip off the attacker, you lose visibility, and you turn a contained issue into a guessing game. What you want instead is a controlled containment. Sometimes it's just time to stop for just a second and breathe and have a controlled environment and controlled containment. You want to segment affected systems. You want to keep the rest of the environment running if it's safe. And then you want to monitor what's happening. Because sometimes the attacker hasn't finished what they came to do yet. And visibility at that point is your advantage. And most importantly, follow a plan. Not a vibe, not a guess, not a what feels right in the moment, a plan. Because in cybersecurity, panic is loud, but control is effective. Now, let's talk about who needs to know. And this is where a lot of responses either get organized or fall apart. First, internal leadership. This is not a, well, we'll tell them later situation. They need to understand the risk, the impact, and the decisions right now. Second, your MSP or IT provider. If you're the MSP, this is your moment to step in and lead. If you're a business, don't try to troubleshoot this alone. Call your experts early. Third, cyber insurance. Yes, you're calling cyber insurance. You know why? Most policies require prompt notification. You wait too long, and coverage can complicate it very, very fast. So I don't know about you, but I wouldn't roll those dice, right? And fourth, legal and compliance. Depending on the incident, there may be breach notification requirements, timelines, and reporting obligations. This is bigger than just IT. This is business risk management. This is also, hey, we're having the right partner helps, right? If you're working with CyberHoot, this is exactly the kind of moment where you can lean on our vCISO team and services to help guide decisions, communication, and the next steps. So you're not figuring it out all under pressure, because guess what? During a breach, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation and your partners. And this is the MSP moment, because when a breach happens, clients are looking for tools, they're looking for leadership, looking for someone to step in and say, all right, here's what we do next, right? Your role isn't just technical, it's to bring structure to the chaos. You need to guide decision-making when things feel a bit uncertain. You need to be able to communicate clearly when emotions are very high, and they can get very high during these cases. When dollars start going, it's a problem. And guess what? You've got to document everything, because later, every action you took matters, and people will ask. So this is where you earn trust. Not doing onboarding, not doing the quarterly review. Right here in the thick of things is where the MSPs get that trust. This is where having the right support behind you makes a difference. If you're partnered with CyberHoot, this is exactly where our vCISO services, security programs come into play. Helping you guide clients through incidents, reinforcing best practices, and turn a chaotic moment into a controlled professional response. Because the goal isn't just to survive the breach. No. It's more than that. It's to come out of this stronger, smarter, and more prepared. So, all right. Went through that, went through quick, right? Boom, speed round, 10 minutes. It was 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Good stuff. All right, now that we've walked through what to do when things go sideways, let's shift the gears a little bit and look at what's been happening behind the scenes, the stuff that helps you stay ahead before the incidents actually ever happen. Time for our CyberHoot Nerd Update. But first, boom, of course, we got one of these here. Be the first to email breach10 to shoothoot@cyberhoot.com and get 10% off your next invoice. Type it in, click send, and get that 10. If you're not watching live, no worries. Email us anyway. I may just give you the 10% off. I'm a nice guy like that. The only catch is you're limited to one of these discounts a month. All right, let's hop into our nerd update. Oh, okay. So, quick nerd update, not too bad. First up, compliance and training insights. We've made compliance reporting more efficient and added new metrics to the training compliance page. So you get a smarter, clear picture of how your users are actually performing and not just checking the boxes. I've got a lot of plans for this. This is just the first step in a number of steps. I'm excited about that. You'll learn more about it later. Later, not today, later another time. Anyways, we also rolled out new API endpoints and SDK support for training and policy stats, which is great. Because if you're pulling data into your dashboards for external reporting, boom, API endpoints don't hook you up. Next, sync and logging improvements. We added better tracking for compliance checks and deployment and the customer level visibility, right? We also improved sync logging, added admin level tracking for changes, and enhanced error handling, especially with our Doodle sync. In short, you got more visibility and fewer of those what just happened moments. Finally, a few platform and usability upgrades. Attack fish emails and landing pages now automatically translate based on the user's languages, which makes simulations feel a lot more natural globally. We also added some quality of life improvements like clearing trial, declare trial billing tooltips and user management, HR, and contact information. So overall, we got better reporting, stronger visibility, and smoother day-to-day operations across the platform. Win, win, win. So, all right, that's a lot. Enough about what we've been building. Let's talk about what people are actually asking when things go sideways. Because when a breach hits, the questions come fast, and the answers matter even faster. Time for our Q&A. Let's talk about the questions that come up right when someone realizes, or right after someone realizes, that yeah, this might actually be a breach. So this is where hesitation and confusion can really hurt. Q&A is open, but as usual, I have 3 of the most commonly asked questions handy, so let's get into it. All right, first question. Should we just shut everything down immediately? Great question and a very common one. The instinct is to go full shutdown mode. That's your instinct. Servers off, network down, pull the plug on everything. But that can actually make things worse, believe it or not. How? Why? You lose the visibility. You tip off the attacker. It may disrupt your own recovery. The better move, controlled containment. You isolate the affected systems, not everything. You can use firewall rules to isolate things. You can limit things down big time if you just have a more controlled plan. All right. Next question. Should we reset all the passwords right away? Well, the short answer to that question is some, yes. All, not immediately. You want to start with the compromised accounts, the privileged ones, anything that's actively being used by the attacker. Those you want to shut down, right? Or reset those passwords. But if you reset everything at once without a plan, you could create even more chaos and even locking out your own response team. So you have to prioritize and then expand on what you actually shut down or what you reset. All right. Last one here. When do we call cyber insurance? I mentioned this earlier. The answer, you call them early, very, very, very early. Most policies require a prompt notification, and many include access to incident response teams. So, if you wait too long, it could complicate your coverage, it could delay your support, or it could create unnecessary risks. So don't wait until you have all the details. Call early, update as you learn more, right? At the end of the day, incident response isn't about having perfect answers. It's about making good decisions quickly. All right, that's all of our questions for the day. So, we've answered questions. We talked about what to do, what not to do, and how fast decisions matter. But what happens when a response breaks down? Let me show you one of the most expensive examples in cybersecurity history. Let's talk about Maersk. In 2017, Maersk, one of the largest shipping companies in the world, was hit by the NotPetya attack. Now, here's what made this situation so devastating. Man, this wasn't targeted specifically at Maersk, but once it hit their network, it spread fast, really fast. Within hours, systems across companies started going down. Ports stopped operating. Now, by ports, I mean the shipping ports, not computer ports. Shipping terminals froze. Employees couldn't log in. At one point, Maersk was effectively running parts of its global operations with just plain old pen and paper. Now, here's where incident response breakdown comes in. Maersk didn't have a fully effective way to contain the spread quickly. The malware moved laterally across the network, wiping systems as it went. In total, listen to these numbers. In total, 4,000 servers were destroyed. I'm trying to find there he is. I wanted to do that, sorry, because wow. Over 45,000 PCs were wiped. Operations across 76 ports worldwide were disrupted. The company had to rebuild its entire infrastructure from scratch. The cost, estimated at about $300 million. And here's the wild part. This is crazy. When I read this, I was like, jaw drop. Recovery only succeeded because of a single surviving domain controller in an office in Ghana that hadn't been affected due to a power outage. You get that? One server. That's what helped them rebuild everything. So what's the lesson here? This wasn't just about the attack. It was about lack of segmentation, limited containment capability, the speed of response versus the speed of spread. Because when an attack moves faster than your response, you're no longer containing damage. You're rebuilding your business. Ouch. And that's what happens when an incident moves faster than your ability to respond. So before we close this out, let's bring it back to what actually matters the most in those first 60 minutes. When a breach happened, everything falls apart. Everything kind of falls apart and feels urgent, urgent, urgent. But the goal isn't to react faster, it's to react smarter. Today we walk through what matters the most in those first 60 minutes. Not panic, action. Disconnect affected systems, lock down access, preserve evidence, get the right people involved early. So those quick steps: contain, lock down, preserve, and escalate. Contain, lock down, preserve, and escalate. Remember those. Just as important, what not to do. Don't wait. Don't go at it alone, and don't erase the very data you'll need later to help figure this out. Because the real damage in a breach often comes after the initial access, during the response, and that's where preparation wins. For MSPs, this is your moment. This is where you bring clarity, structure, and leadership where your clients need you the most. Because when things go sideways, they're not looking for tools. They're looking for you. And if you need CyberHoot, we're here for you. All right. So if this episode helped you think differently about incident response, share it with your team. Send it to a client, and make someone in your organization know what to do before the next actual alert breach hits. Because when a breach happens, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation. So until next time, prepare. I also want you to, as usual, laugh, learn, and hoot up. Hoot up!